A dramatic standoff brings traffic to a standstill downtown. That story and all your Toronto news tonight. This is CBC News at 6. I'm Diana Swain. The top story in our city, tense moments downtown this afternoon as a passenger in a cab claimed he had dynamite. What unfolded for the next 2 hours was a terrifying wait for the cabbie and people looking on in one of the city's busiest areas. This is how it ended just before 4 o'clock. The police tactical squad moved in, firing tear gas into the cab and arresting a suspect who'd held them at bay for 2 hours. It started with a 911 call from the cabbie. He said his passenger claimed he had dynamite and plans to blow up the cab. The driver pulled over the car at Bloor and St. George. Traffic in all directions was stopped. Commuters and people working in the area left to watch the standoff unfold.
It was a little surreal, just kind of having it that close to home.
I'm stunned. This is pretty amazing. Like this kind of thing doesn't happen very often.
There's nothing you can do. You feel really helpless and you don't know whether you're going to die or not.
Police say the driver was able to leave the car. His passenger lay down in the back seat. A police robot was sent in to blow up the package if necessary. But first, the tactical squad went after the suspect. He was taken to hospital for observation.
The suspect has been arrested at this point for several offences. He's going to be taken to hospital for some decontamination. Obviously, if there's any other injuries, that'll be looked at.
Family members of the man say the incident was a misunderstanding. This man spoke on condition of anonymity, but told CBC News his uncle was impaired and didn't have money for the fare.
There's no bomb. It was totally out of control. I don't know why he was lasered, tasered, or tear gassed, whatever. It should have never happened.
Ford Motor Company delivered a painful announcement today. The automaker is slashing more than 10,000 jobs across North America. It's also shutting down 2 plants, one of them in Canada. The move is just the latest in a series of dramatic cuts by the company. Sounds gloomy, but as Havard Gould reports, overall, Canadians might actually have something to smile about.
Going in, most feared the St. Thomas, Ontario plant would be closed. Generations worried about their jobs.
It's pretty bad because my dad's been here 23 years and need 30 to get retirement pay and everything, so I don't know what he's going to do.
The aging plant makes big cars, old designs, at a company desperate to cut.
We know these decisions bring even more pain to the business in the short term.
But as Ford slashed 10,000 U.S. jobs, St. Thomas was spared, at least for now.
We're not being closed if you called that dodging a bullet.
But down the road in Windsor, an engine plant will close. At least 600 jobs will be lost. But overall, the auto sector in Canada is expanding. One automaker building a massive new plant.
Toyota is hiring some 2,000 people to work at the facility. Most won't start until the plant is close to being open in a couple of years, but some are needed sooner.
And so, to many people's surprise, they will keep making cars in St. Thomas for the foreseeable future. Havard Gould, CBC News, St. Thomas, Ontario.
Good evening. The top story in our city tonight, the roads we use every day. How safe are they for pedestrians and drivers? We have 2 reports tonight, beginning with crosswalks. City Hall concedes there are at least 36 crosswalks in this city that are dangerous. Amanda Singroy has that story.
It seems crossing the street has become a dangerous notion for some.
Like I have to run to the other side. I can't walk because I'm scared like cars are going to hit me.
You actually have to step onto the street before somebody will stop, which, is a bit ridiculous.
It's reaction like that's forced the city to act. It's released a report saying 37 crosswalks, including this one, are unsafe because of too much traffic and too much speed. And there should be traffic lights there instead. The city's crosswalks have been under review for a couple of years, but what pushed this issue ahead is when an 11-year-old girl was killed at this Etobicoke crosswalk at the beginning of the year.
Certainly, the urgency for council came in January when we had a fatal incident out on Islington Avenue at a pedestrian crossover, and it was sort of a bellwether for us. We got to look at these.
The cost to change each intersection from a crosswalk to a traffic light is about $125,000. A small price to pay, say residents, especially considering 25 pedestrians have been killed on city streets this year alone. Kia Karpuzis is relieved that her neighborhood crosswalk could soon have traffic signals for her kids.
When there's a red light, people tend to stop more than when there's a crosswalk. I think the notion is that when it's red, people stop. When it's a crosswalk, it's optional.
The city is also planning to enhance all of the other crosswalks in the city with bigger signs, flashier lights, and special street markings. The report must still be approved by council. If it gets the go-ahead, the plan is to change the crosswalks over the next 4 years. Amanda Singh Roy, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to the other story everyone's talking about, the weather and the winter-like start to the long weekend. There are a number of snow squall warnings in effect right now. Meteorologist Nick Cernkovich is live with the details. Nick?
That's right, Christine. I mean, I know on our minds, of course, is the cold weather and the wind chill values, which can be dangerous in themselves. But north of the city, we actually have dangerous driving conditions. Now, if you've taken those snow tires off, it may have been just a little too early. Snow squalls coming off the lakes right now. Now, they've petered off a little bit, and you can see that on the satellite and radar image.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Police are investigating the GTA's fourth murder in 5 days. A man was killed in the East End in a building whose tenants are all too familiar with crime. Michelle Chung reports.
A quiet holiday Friday, shattered for tenants in this building. About 2:30 this morning, police were called in to break up a fight between two men in the lobby. When they got here, they found a 44-year-old man unconscious with head injuries. He died in hospital. The man police say the victim was fighting with took off. Some people in the building saw what happened on their TVs.
Witnesses within the apartment building were able to view this altercation and fight by the closed-circuit security camera hooked up to their televisions. And as a result of viewing this, one person in particular was able to call 911 as the assault was in progress.
Police have released this edited video of the suspect from the security camera. They have not yet identified him. Police won't say who the victim is until they can tell his family. Corrine Robbins has raised 2 kids here. She says she's never seen anything this bad in the 27 years she's been a tenant.
Too many crackheads floating around, so it's going to happen again, I'm telling you. Too much crackheads. Too many crackheads, and they need to do something.
I'm scared. I have 3 little kids. 10, 5, and 2 years old, and I'm afraid I don't know what's going on.
Police say they get called out to this building on a regular basis. In fact, they say the only other building that gives them more trouble is the one next door. Michelle Chung, CBC News, Toronto.
More than 2 decades on the football field, and Toronto Argonaut Damon Allen has passed more than 70,000 yards. Tonight, though, what he passed was an all-time record for number of passing yards in a pro football career. The CBC's Cass Rusey was there.
It's one of the best rivalries in Canadian football, the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts, a Labor Day classic.
You got Toronto, which, whether it's true or not, they're seen as the highfalutin big city from the east. And then you've got Hamilton. You've got the hard-working Hamilton boys.
I think it's just the excitement of the game, that because the cities are so close together, so people figure that get that competitive mode going.
But there was something extra special about this game, and for Toronto's 43-year-old quarterback, Damon Allen, it was the day he would become the most prolific passer in pro football.
You have to be durable to be able to play for 23 years in the Canadian Football League. He's 43 years old, and he's still playing at an elite level.
These Argos fans loaded onto a bus for the short drive to Hamilton.
No one will ever break this record again. It takes a long time and some wonderful seasons for him to accomplish this.
Celebrations will continue next week in Toronto with a Damon Allen Day. Cass Rusey, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
This is a major work by Henry Moore that has been loaned to the Opera Company for a period of 18 months while we're under construction and to help mark the opening of their new building. This work is called Warrior with Shield by Henry Moore. It dates from the early 50s and is his largest single male figure that he made. And it's a work that is full of issues of humanity, the defiant warrior that links back to issues around the beginning or the end of the Second World War. But we thought it was particularly relevant to the opera company with its dramatic nature, as many of the operas are of that kind, and especially the Ring Cycle, which is just coming up. And so we wanted to be able to make this particular work available to the opera company for an extended length of time. It's a piece that originally came into the collection in the mid-50s, and at that time it caused quite a furor in Toronto, especially among the press, who found it to be rather gruesome, this mutilated warrior. It's a piece that really speaks to many elements in Moore's work, especially since its genesis came, according to Moore, from a pebble that he found on a beach. And in many cases, he would use found objects as the genesis for his work. And in this case, he began the piece actually as a reclining warrior, and then he turned it so it was sitting upright in the form that you see it now, and felt that this was a more satisfying composition, and indeed could speak to the element of defiance with the shield protecting London, as it were, from the Blitz.
Dans plus d'un an, si tout va bien, Pickering va produire 500 mégawatts de plus, assez pour fournir de l'électricité à une ville comme London, par exemple. Le redémarrage du réacteur nucléaire est toutefois tout un défi.
This was not an easy decision, and it's not a decision that our government has taken lightly.
Ce fut une décision difficile pour le gouvernement, dit-il. Le ministre marche sur des œufs. Le projet de modernisation de Pickering, mis de l'avant par l'ancien gouvernement conservateur, a déjà coûté plus d'1,5 milliard de dollars. Les retards s'accumulent et un seul réacteur sur 4 a été remis en marche. La province veut donc convaincre les Ontariens que ça vaut toujours le coup d'y investir des centaines de millions, que c'est le meilleur moyen de répondre aux besoins croissants en énergie. Dernièrement, un comité sur l'avenir de la Société publique de production d'électricité donnait raison au gouvernement.
Franchement, pour les grandes sources de production à l'Ontario, il faut continuer à faire des investissements en nucléaire. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de choix.
Les néo-démocrates sont pessimistes. Les libéraux seront très chanceux s'ils mènent à terme leur projet en respectant leur budget, dit-il. Celui-ci parle même de la plus grande erreur des libéraux. Il faudrait plutôt compter sur le gaz naturel. Ce consultant indépendant croit que la remise en marche du prochain réacteur sera sans doute un succès parce que le public aura à l'œil l'évolution des travaux. Si justement le prochain réacteur fonctionne comme prévu, le gouvernement pense déjà au redémarrage des 2 autres de la centrale de Pickering. Les libéraux auront besoin de toute l'énergie disponible pour respecter leur promesse de fermer les centrales au charbon de la province d'ici 3 ans. Christian Grégoire, Radio-Canada, Toronto.